about what created your interest, or why did you decide to start developing the Silva program? What brought about, or what need did you see?
Well, Alicia, actually, the real thing happened, what really happened, it was that I had no plans to do this. We just, one thing came after the other. I'm looking for something, and something else shows up, then I follow it. And then later I've got my idea of what I want of it, and then something else happens to change my mind again, and keep on going the other direction. And we ended up with this, really. We didn't have a plan to say that we knew what we wanted, we were going to look for it, see. It just happened along the way.
So there wasn't, what was the triggering thing that got you started with this? I've heard you mention your children. Was that the main reason?
Well, when I started to study psychology and came across hypnosis, of course the kids around the neighborhood, or the mothers didn't want the kids to participate, of course. Maybe I would burn their brain or something. So I had to use my own kids, you see. And then especially with the ones that were having trouble with schoolwork. And that's what I was improving, you see. So when the neighborhood families found out that my kids were improving, then they wanted their kids trained also. Now that's how it got started, really.
Okay.
Then after this, when Isabel, I was working with her on age regression, and prompting questions to her, see what answers she would give me. All of a sudden, she's answering questions on questions I have not started to ask yet. I hadn't listened to ask them, but I had not started, and she's giving me the answers without me presenting the question. So what's going on here? She's getting ahead of me. I know. How did she know I was going to ask that, And that started happening more frequently. Is she reading my mind, kind of? So that's another area of research. Then I changed my mind as to what objectives I'm looking for, and started to try and see if I could enhance that faculty for her to do better in trying to guess what I'm thinking, see? And that's the beginning of it.
Okay, so it started out in education.
That's right.
When did it lead? I know it's expanded so much today, like talking about going into business, going into the educational system, the public.
Well, Alicia, that we have always thought, that an uncontrolled mind is always destructive. To be constructive and creative, you must control or discipline your mind, or it'll be the opposite, see? So then, your mind is a common denominator. You improve the functioning of the human mind, you improve everything where your mind applies. And everything, your mind comes first before it can be anything else.
Why do you think it's expanded so much today that there are millions of people have gone through?
Because people is so let's say, so unsophisticated, so simple, so down to a level of understanding that even a child can understand it. And when you teach a person something that they can really use and of value, they tell other people about it. So the word of mouth has really spread the word, and here we are now.
How do they think someone that hasn't gone through this program as compared to someone that does go through, how do they think different? How do they become more successful? What do they do that's different?
Well, Alicia, we found in our research, because first in the study of psychology, became interested in that. When I was 30 years of age, when I went into the service, I talked to a psychiatrist, and there I got the idea of wanting to study psychology. And along the way, I came across the term hypnosis. I went after that for several years. I became a good hypnoanalyst, let's say. Age regressing, prenatal, postnatal, and so forth. On life tracks and so on. Get all information that's been recorded in your brain and things like this. They came across the term parapsychology. I investigated this and contacted all the leaders in the field, Dr. Ryan included and so on. I had several discussions with him personally about parapsychology and so on. But then again, what ultimately did it is when I came across the term electrocephalography, the electronic equipment that is used to detect and measure brain waves or brain activity. And since my field, since I was 14 years of age, I've been involved with electronics. That's a good play toy for me. I mean, I'm full circle now. Look what I got here now. So I started to read more about the human brain along the way that is done in electrocephalography. And I found that 90% of people, 9 out of 10, the way I saw it, were doing their thinking in the wrong dimension of the brain. By that I mean, everybody has more 5, 10, and 15 vibrations per second. It used to be called cycles per second. Not too long ago, they changed it to hertz per second, like in radio and television. They talk about thousands of hertz per second, kilohertz, or in television, millions of hertz per second, megahertz. Well, it's the name given to the man who discovered that the energy was pulsing, and his last name was Hertz. So they have adopted his name. It's just cycles. When your brain vibrates or pulses like your heart beats, but your brain per second and your heart per minute. So we start to look into the brain and find out that there are more 5s, 10s, and 20s than any other frequency in your brain. So we started another phase of research in that area. What is the best one of the three? Can we say that? Well, first of all, what are we going to do to determine whether one is better than the other? So I started to look for stability, synchronization. Which of the three is most stable? Which of the three is more synchronized? And I found out that 10 cycles was the most synchronized. 20 was the least synchronized. That's one thing. Now, what other tests can we make that we can say one is better than the other? We could say this again. Well, what about the energy of each one? How energetic is 5 compared to 10 and 20? We found that the most energetic was 10 again, and the least was 20. Then the surprise came that 90% of people do their thinking where the brain is the weakest and the least synchronized. And only 10% does their thinking when the brain is functioning on 10 or the most energetic and synchronized frequency. Then looking into the lives of people, what have they done in their lives? We found that the ones who were thinking on 10 were the healthiest individuals, very spiritual, they believe more in God, they want to go to church. Not only this, but healthiest because these people did not get sick with psychosomatic health problems. And as medical science knows that more than 90% of all health problems are rooted in what they call the psychosomatic phenomenon. Well, so they were not contracting psychosomatic problems. Not only this, they were more intuitive. And because of intuition, they didn't get into accidents. Seldom do they get into accidents. Intuition keeps them from getting into accidents, so it seems. And then again, intuition also helps them to be more times right than wrong. You see, and being more times right than wrong means more successful in life, because they don't make so many mistakes. They're the lucky people, they say, because they're always successful in almost everything they do. Now, on the contrary, the other individuals who do their thinking on 20 were just the opposite of this. Not as religious, not as spiritual. They contracted the psychosomatic health problems of all sorts. They were not intuitive enough. They were getting into more accidents than the other individuals. And of course, they were more times wrong than right, and that means bad luck. Now, we started to notice the differences. Now, the next thing was, what are we going to do then to help a person who does their thinking on 20 to start thinking on 10? Now, that's where the whole research came into, as the training goes.
Okay, so you researched, first of all, the brainwave frequencies, then you researched the successful people.
Right.
And found out the ones that were doing well did their thinking on 10. Do we know at this point what all abilities we have as a human being from that level, from the alpha frequency, if we learn how to think, problem solve? Do we have any idea what all we can do at that level?
You improve your mind so much, Alicia, because notice all the information that you perceive with your biological senses is not only impressed on your left brain hemisphere, but it's transferred to the right one. So it seems.
Okay.
Now, all information received with your mental sensing faculty, because each brain hemisphere has its own set of senses. Of course, the left one, biological senses, so-called physical senses, and the right one, mental senses. senses of the mind. So we say the left brain hemisphere functions in the world of the body, physics, and the right one in the world of the mind, dimension. So all information perceived with your mental sensing faculties is impressed on the right brain hemisphere, but not transferred to the left.
For the average person?
That's just right.
Okay.
For, well, 90% of the people anyway.
Okay.
So all information that you perceive physically is the only one you can grasp and do something with it in problem solving if you're thinking with the left brain hemisphere. But when you think with the right one, you have more information that you can also use to solve more problems with. Not only the information you press on the left, but also the information you press on the right. See? So you have twice as much, or maybe many more times, more information when taking with the right brain hemisphere at 10 cycles than when you do with the left one on 20.
So how would this relate like when psychologists talk about the difference in the conscious, subconscious level of functioning?
Well, for 90% of people who only use the left brain hemisphere to think with, now remember some people get confused sometimes because they know that the right brain hemisphere governs the left side of the body,
right,
and the left brain hemisphere the right side of the body. We're talking about physics now, about nervous systems and so on. We're not talking about the way we think,
right,
with what we think with. So thinking with the left is one thing, thinking with the right is another thing. Okay?
Okay.
So people who think with the left, we mentioned the abilities and so forth, and they're thinking on 20 vibrations, and the ones that are thinking with the right are thinking at 10 cycles, the right brain hemisphere. And we say that these people are the geniuses. We have found that all successful people that we have investigated, and I mean, Alicia, successful on their own right, not because they received inheritance from the parents or somebody else did it for them, and you send them the plates, silver plates, you know, that they did it themselves, fundamentally. We found that these people were called geniuses. And we think that a genius is one who uses both brain hemispheres to think with, depending on the need.
Okay. So is using both, you're saying in a balanced way, not one over the other, but in a balanced way. And then with the subconscious, is that what psychologists have traditionally called functioning from the alpha theta level?
Well, notice that you mentioned what is the conscious, subconscious and so on. A person who is thinking only and can only use the left brain hemisphere, doing their thinking at 20 vibrations, he has what they call the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious labels for his brain.
Okay.
But the person who learns to use the right brain hemisphere to think with and functions there with full awareness, that person, that dimension is not the subconscious anymore, it's inner conscious. So thinking with the left brain hemisphere, 20 vibrations, outer conscious. Thinking with the right one, right brain hemisphere, 10 cycles, inner conscious. And then comes the subconscious.
Okay.
So there's no subconscious for the individual who can, with awareness, can use both brain hemispheres.
So we'll do away with that concept.
Well, you know, it's difficult, or let's say, contradictory to say that the person is functioning consciously in subconscious. It's either one or the other. So then that has converted into inner conscious.
Okay. So aware of the inner conscious with the outer conscious also.
Right.
Instead of it being below.
The
our
threshold of
aware-
consciousness, yes.
Yes. What, like if a person got involved in the Silva program, what would be the benefits? What would be, what would I gain if I went through to be more successful as a person? I hear you saying taking control of the right hemisphere. What would be the other benefits for a person if they decided?
But where do you want to go? In education? I mean,
It's so broad?
you have more energy at that level to make stronger impressions of information on your neurons, your brain cells. So the stronger you impress them, the longer the information will last, and the easier for reading. The recallability will improve memory.
Okay, so memory.
That area in education, for instance. I mean, all kids make better grades because they remember what they read. They bring it back again. That's one area. In health, for instance, if you think on 10 cycles, at 10 cycles, 10 cycles per second brain frequency, at that one frequency, there are several ways in order that can be explained, can be used to explain, that when you're there, you're stimulating your immune system. some scientists are saying there's energy in space. We know there's magnetic energy, but they're also saying it's pulsing at certain frequency per second. Now, some have agreed that it's pulsing at 10 cycles per second, a fundamental frequency. There's other energy fields there. There are other pulsations also, but they say that the 10 cycles is a fundamental frequency because this individual who discovered this, an astrophysicist, is saying that he also discovered 4 harmonics of the same. So when there are harmonics, then you can detect whether a harmonic is a harmonic or the fundamental is a fundamental. So if you have a fundamental, you have 4 harmonics of the same, and you can go anywhere below that, then is a fundamental then. The other harmonics all is fundamental. So he, to prove that, found 4 harmonics of 10 cycles per second. So we say that the average frequency pulsing in space is 10 cycles per second. Now, what is pulsing? It's a magnetic field pulsing at 10 cycles. So other scientists have found that this magnetic field pulsing at 10 cycles has helped to bring back the health of a damaged enzyme in research. An individual has damaged an enzyme, distributed the damaged enzyme in different parts, and placed each one in a different field, energy field, pulsing at a variable frequency. And there are many energy fields: infrasonic, ultrasonic, infrared, ultraviolet. I mean, you name it. There's so many: electromagnetic, magnetic, and so forth and so on. So the only field that was found to help to recover the damaged enzyme, the health of the damaged enzyme, was a weak magnetic field pulsing at 10 cycles per second, which is in space again. Same thing. Others have found that by placing plants within this field, causes the plant to grow faster. Now others have cut the roots of plants and placed them in such fields, and they find that the plant is placed within the field does not spoil, does not rot. It dries up, becomes mummified. So then, one of the last things that they're thinking of what's happening is that this is like all type of research, you know. You never see the end of it. If they discover something else later, they might change their mind. It's an open-ended thing. The last conclusion, the semi-conclusion, we can say, is that they think that what's happening here is that this energy, magnetic field, pulsing at 10 cycles, stimulates the subatomic particles in matter. And because the excitation within matter, this expulses all the moisture of the matter and keeps it from spoiling. That water or moisture causes the spoiling of the matter. So this keeps it from spoiling and causes it to become dried up and mummified. The excitation of subatomic particles in matter causes the expulsion of more moisture and keeps it from spoiling. So then, when you get to 10 cycles, your brain is pulsing at the same frequency that the energy space is pulsing at. That means that then you are stimulating the subatomic particles in your own body chemistry. And your body chemistry is controlled by your immune system. So indirectly, or directly, what you want to call it, there's a connection to stimulate your immune system when you're at 10 cycles. So then, whenever you want to solve a problem, and you have gotten into a habit, or you're conditioned to, do thinking at 10. That means when you're helping to solve a problem, your bonus is stronger immune system. See how simple it is? You get rewarded for doing the right thing, solving problems. You stay at this level, 10 cycles, to figure out what kind of problem am I dealing with, and how can I solve it, and you get rewarded. You're going to be a healthier person, because your immune system is what keeps you healthy. If you allow your immune system to get weak on you, and maybe even get out of control and do the opposite, even if you are a medical doctor, Alicia, you're going to die as dead as anybody else, nothing can help you. So we find that people, not only do they not get sick with psychosomatic problems, and maybe this is the reason for it, because they're always strengthening their immune system every time they try to solve a problem. So this is how you can think about things in the direction to health. Why healthy? Why are the people who are balanced, like we say balanced, using both brain hemispheres, are healthier? That would be an answer there. The reason.
Do you have to learn how to relax? Huh? Okay. Do you have to learn how to relax to get to the alpha level? Do you go through a relaxation process or?
Well, to learn, Alicia, to learn how to find the connection to the right brain hemisphere at 10 cycles frequency, brain frequency. First of all, we need you to close your eyes, because the focusing of the sense of sight is the only biological sense that requires your brain to function on 20 vibrations. That's strictly left brain function when you're focusing. Now, the focusing requires your brain to be on 20 vibrations. So close your eyes so we can change that frequency of your brain, or else you get stuck on 20 if you keep on focusing. You're not going to go anywhere. Now, when you focus, you release your brain to function at any frequency. With your eyes closed, you can be anywhere. You can be awake or you can be deep asleep with your eyes closed, or somewhere in between. Now, we're looking for somewhere in between here, because when you go to sleep, you go from the normal, average, high brain frequency to the lowest. And then you keep on cycling back and forth, what they call the sleep and dream cycles. They take about an hour and a half long per cycle. So the first 90 minutes you spend it more than 50% of it in the deepest level of the brain. That scientists call the delta region. Well, these letters selected from the Greek alphabet were selected and used when the brain frequencies were discovered, in the order of discovery, not in the order of brain evolution, see? So they're all messed up, meaning they're not in the ABC order in relation to the brain evolving beings. It just happened that when they discovered that, they labeled these frequencies. So naturally, when they discovered the first one, the equipment to measure brain or detect brain waves was very crude, not sophisticated enough. Naturally, the one that detected was the strongest, of course, had to be alpha. See? So this is the order, alpha, then beta came along and so on. So we have 4 labels that we have placed, or scientists have placed in the brain. Delta, the lowest frequency, theta, a little higher, alpha, a little higher, and beta, the highest, average. Okay?
Okay. So in the program, if someone went through, the beginning goal was to learn how to get to the alpha level consciously aware.
First of all, close your eyes, then start to relax anything that disturbs you, that interferes with your relaxing. Because we need to have the body completely relaxed in order to slow down the brain frequencies. And the first thing we need to relax is the mind. When you relax your mind, the body relaxes along with it, whether you want to or not. You cannot have an active body with a relaxed mind, but you can have an active mind with a relaxed body. That's the opposite. So once you relax your mind, you relax both of them automatically. So we know we need to relax the mind so that the body will relax also. Now when this happens, then the brain starts going down in frequency, like when you go to sleep, you know. Because that's what happens when you go to sleep. You relax completely your mind, you relax completely your body, and you go into deep slumber to begin with. The first sleep and dream cycle. That is called the deep slumber, deep asleep, you know. So they start cycling back and forth until you wake up in the morning. But then again, we want to stop somewhere in between.
Yeah, okay.
Now, yogis and the Zen masters and all the others before us, they thought that the deepest was the best. And it was theta, not delta. You cannot enter delta except through normal physiologic sleep. If you're hit over the head and knocked out, you end in theta, not in delta. When you're given anesthesia, your brain goes to theta, not delta again, and so on. So you only enter delta through normal, natural physiologic sleep. Okay? Like a special door that requires a special combination to enter it, like a safe, you know. And the combination is what happens at delta, so the door will open automatically. Your brain is not delta frequency, you will not open the door, see? So you remain in theta, because it's not a normal thing to be knocked out, you know, unconscious or whatever. You cannot go beyond theta when you're knocked out or unconscious. So this is the brain frequency cycles, the sleep and dream cycle they're called. and they're 90 minutes long on the average. The next cycle, you will not go as deep as before, but the amount of time is distributed in the other dimensions. So at any rate, regardless of how much time you spend on any one, whether more than delta than theta, then more than theta than delta, and it's always distributed equally for 90 minutes per cycle until you wake up in the morning.
Okay, so the first part of the program, like if someone had a health problem, just going through the first part of the program would help them. Learning how to get to the alpha level and doing the mind relaxing and the physical body would relax. So it goes past
Well,
the
the exercises, Alicia, are just for that purpose. The mind training exercise, we call it mental gymnastics,
Right.
or mental exercises. How to slow down your brain, how to calm your body to slow down your brain. Once we find the right dimension where you should be, which means at the level where you should be connected to the right brain hemisphere, which is 10 cycles. No, it's interesting to find, to come and arrive at why 10 cycles, and what do we mean by right brain hemisphere? What do we mean by human intelligence dimension and so forth? Which is the dimension most intelligent? But for this, Alicia, we need to then look again into psychology as to the 7-year life cycles, they're called. 7-year life cycles, every time you go to a 7-year cycle, changes take place. Major changes take place in the first 3 90-minute cycles. Then another major change takes place when it's 7 times 7-year life cycles, which is menopause, change of life, major changes. But the first is the first, let's say, 7-year life cycle, and when you're growing, you're adding more to your body size or whatever, you're gaining, they're called anabolic. When you're losing, they're called catabolic. So 7 times 7 should be anabolic, and 7 times 7 should be catabolic. Okay. So the first one, the child starts to walk, develops a set of teeth, learns the parents' language, whatever it is, Chinese, Greek, or whatever it is, or Japanese. He will learn it in this amount of time, and start using his biological senses. But the mind is functioning only inductively, like animals' minds function. They learn by repetition, through conditioning, okay? Environmental conditioning. They don't have intelligence to be able to analyze anything. The analytical faculties are not there yet. So I continue to ask why. You explain something to them, you continue, why? They never did say why.
Yeah.
They didn't make sense to them. Making sense means using your analytical faculties, human intelligence, that's what that is. So this is for the first 7-year anabolic life cycle. Now the second one, in this first 7-year life cycle, the brain averages brain frequency within the delta and the theta, average brain frequency, when their eyes are closed. When the eyes are open, it'll be focusing, they're on 20, see, even the child is. So second 7-year life cycle, the male changes his voice to a mature adult sounding voice, and the female goes into her monthly rhythm. That's when they go through 7 to 14 years of life. Second 7-year anabolic life cycle. Now the mind starts functioning deductively. Analytical faculties come on the scene to analyze problems. Now they know why fire burns. Because they didn't know why fire burns. They knew that it burned, but why it burns, whatever. So now the analytical comes in, but you see, then we're going to what is the alpha range, between 7 and 14 is the alpha range of brain frequency. Now when human intelligence comes on the scene, that's the connection to the right brain hemisphere. The right brain hemisphere seems to have a connection to where we came from, whatever that is, and where we go back to, whenever we leave this planet. So we get information from wherever that connection is. We got it the other side, where we came from. And the other side is what we call it subjective or spiritual. Immaterial, non-physical, intangible, all kinds of names. That means we don't know what's going on over there, period. We cannot use our biological senses in that dimension. But surely enough, we know we came from somewhere, and we go back to that somewhere again when we leave the planet. This is a very short stay on this planet, because the planet's been so many millions of years old, and we don't stay here, with the exception of maybe a few, beyond a period of 100 years, which means 100 years. Everybody goes in a period of 100 years. It seems like the planet is a giant airport in space. So many thousands land per hour, so many thousands take off per hour. But within a period of less than 100 years, the whole population of the planet goes and new ones come and take our places, whether we like it or not. It seems like everything on the planet is loaned for, just see what you're gonna do with it. It doesn't belong to anybody. It's loaned to you. You found it here, you leave it here before you leave. So if somebody else makes use of it, then it'll belong to somebody else then. So this is the way it appears to me, okay? So actually, we should get our right concept of what life is and what it's for, to really get on the job and do something worthwhile on this planet. We're destroying it instead of helping. We're so ignorant, and the reason we think, and we think somebody else found out the same way back in 2,000 years ago, that we came to convert this planet to a paradise, but somehow we did not evolve correctly. We were using the wrong brain hemisphere to think with. We disconnected ourselves from the other side, from being aware of the use of the right one. Like the right one is a connection to the other side, to be guided and told what to do. You say told? Yes, you're told through a hunch, through a gut feeling, through intuition, you're told what to do. And when you mind your inner consciousness, you're always right. If you don't mind your inner consciousness, you start developing stress and hurting your immune system because you're doing the wrong thing. Okay?
How do you get to the point, you're talking about learning how to go to that level, how do you get to the point you know how you're utilizing that part of you, that link with the right hemisphere?
Okay.
What process do you go through?
Okay, because in hypnosis, Alicia, I found that if we go too deep, we enter a dimension where mind cannot be active. In other words, you're not able to solve problems. You're not able to answer, that is, you're not able to ask questions. You can answer questions under hypnosis, but you cannot formulate a question. So you cannot activate your mind. You just respond, but cannot activate your mind. That's the inductive faculty of mind function. Now to be functioning deductively, you need to formulate a question. You need to answer questions and also ask questions. So we found that what dimension we wanted was not the deepest one, the lowest one, which means theta. The next to that is alpha. So we knew that if you were too deep, you were not able to ask questions. When we got you to a point where we asked you something and you gave us an answer and added something new to it, you were adding to it intelligently, you were not in theta anymore. You had to be in alpha because you were not in beta. We know that because we can tell. Now, and along with this, using an electroencephalograph, we wanted you to be able to find that when you were below 7 cycles, you couldn't formulate questions, you couldn't ask questions, you would only answer. But between 7 and 14, you could ask questions and answer questions, both ways. And that's what we wanted. We want to go deep enough to be able to find that dimension, not so deep that you couldn't ask questions, but a little higher than this, so you can start asking questions, to activate your mind again. We wanted you to have an active mind yet at that dimension. So then we started holding you there and started to help you develop what we call, what is called visualization and imagination, to establish experiences, points of reference we call it. You have an experience of what you do with your mind there, it's impressed at that level. We want you to go to the same level, we remind you, why did you do what you did, and then going back and thinking about it, we'll take you to the same place where it happened. See? So we started impressing information that we could always repeat and get you back to where you were, and continue using that dimension to develop more flexibility in functioning in that dimension. So we started to tell you what visualization was, and what to do about it, what imagination was, and what to do about it, and give you exercises to enhance, strengthen that faculty to visualize and the faculty to imagine while at that dimension, to lock it in, make sure you will never forget how to function there ever again. That's how we get started.
In the beginning of the program, what is that? Is that mainly so you find that level? Like, I know the program's 4 days. Are the first 2 days to predominantly find that level, or is it to start actually doing problem solving?
Well, we have 4 segments in our work, and the first 2 segments are to find the level.
Okay.
And while we're finding it, we know that some things can be, some problems can be resolved with just a few exercises. Others need more than a few to be able to solve a different kind of problem, and some need more than this, a deep level of mind to be able to solve other kinds of problems. And we're talking about such as like trying to wake up at the right time, or waking up when you want to without an alarm clock, or for instance, programming so that pain goes away, you don't have any more pain, either headaches or any pain in the body. And to be able to do away with insomnia, if you have insomnia, things like this, you see, can be done within the first 2 segments. Now, this is the foundation for the 3rd and 4th segments. So now we're functioning with everything we know using the left brain hemisphere. But then again, we're deepening so to be able to find a connection to the right one. Then we transfer, once there, we transfer to the right one and start building the ability to function with the right one. So we say first we function in what we call the world of the body, then we function in what we call the world of the mind. We want to develop the use of both brain hemispheres. Then we start using visualization, imagination, and all the faculties that belong to the right brain hemisphere. The faculties that belong to the left one are the instincts in the biological senses. The faculties that belong to the right one are all mental faculties, such as desire is a mental faculty. It can have any amount of strength, you cannot measure it. Belief is the mental faculty. It can be very strong or not at all, there's no way to measure it. Hope is another. How strongly do you expect something to happen? You cannot measure that either. Love, how strong is your love for anybody? You cannot measure it. All these faculties belong to the right brain hemisphere, which functions with a connection to the spiritual, subjective, immaterial, intangible, but real existing dimension.
So these are the qualities that the really, really successful people have.
That's right.
It's learning how to link it up.
Automatically.
Yeah, once they do that. And what I have heard is that there's a certain percentage of people that have this naturally. Is that?
Well, we find that our research indicates about 10% of them have it naturally. So the ones that we really know are doing something towards helping the planet to succeed in becoming a heavenly place to live instead of a hell, the way it is going, you know. And you can tell because in religious movements, you find that the people who attend the religious congregation, you find that the ones that really have the church are about 10%. Only about 10%. They really have the church. The rest of them don't care.
Because they're not linked with that quality.
They're not spiritually oriented, they're spiritually biased, let's say.
What about a lot of research has been done, or I've heard of a lot of people talk about people in sports that have gone through Silva and how they've improved in sports. What are some of the areas that you know where you need people to make positive changes? Like I know professionals in sports, is this accurate, have gone through and improved after going through the program?
Yes, because actually, Alicia, what works here is your visualization and imagination.
Okay, and that's in the first part of the
Yes.
program.
You visualize yourself what you were able to do, then imagine yourself what you want to do. And after you have placed in that dimension the ingredients, you start by the seeds planted, you know what you have been able to do, and then you want those seeds to flourish, and then you imagine what you want from those seeds to take place. And you want to imagine the end results, having succeeded already, past tense. And that's what's going to happen. If it doesn't happen in the world of the mind, Alicia, it's not going to happen in the world of physics.
Right.
Everything that has become materialized in the world of physics had to first take place in the world of the mind, period, in a past tense sense. Not hoping that you'll get it eventually, because it'll never happen again. You need to, in the world of the mind, to know, to imagine it, and to sense it as though it's already happened. Now let it happen in the world of physics, and you will. But it first needs to be impressed, and it must have taken place in the world of the mind, period. So everything, this is why we think that the failure has been, so far, that's our way of thinking, that our parents did not know they had to teach us how to use our minds. They thought it was a natural thing. Mind develops on its own, the biggest mistake ever. It's a very simple way to teach a child how to use his mind, both brain hemispheres, so they will never suffer like the ones who are using only the left one, hitting their head against the walls like blind people, don't know which direction to go. This won't happen to one who uses both the hemispheres.
So a child could go through it and learn the easiest from 7 to about 14,
That's correct.
whereas an adult has to learn how to get back there.
That's right.
To that-
reconnect.
Yeah.
They bypassed it, in other words.
Yeah.
They did not make enough impressions mentally on the right brain hemisphere when they were growing between 7 and 14. They were more interested in using the left one and using the biological senses, as a new attraction, something they never saw before. Oh, it's attractive. Well, they want label, put labels on it. Something they never tasted before, again. So they want to saturate the use of the biological senses, but they belong to the left brain hemisphere. So they didn't press enough experiences using the right one. They don't know where it is. They lost it.
Is this where, like we're talking about visualization, imagination, from this level, is this where belief systems are locked in? Is this, you're talking about changing in the mind first and then physics will change out here.
Right.
Is that belief systems that psychologists are talking about that limit people, that hold them back?
Well, notice, Alicia, you can visualize and imagine with the left brain hemisphere. And you can visualize and imagine with the right one. But visualizing and imagining with the left one is only manipulating, changing the position of things that are there already and get them to appear in a different setup. You can change the arrangement of things already exist. Now, visualizing and imagining with the right one is creating something for the first time that never happened. See the difference?
Uh-huh.
Now, we want that to be transferred to the left once it takes place in the right.
So you're saying negative beliefs aren't true all along?
Well, negative beliefs are, they're doubts really, in a sense. If you doubt something, it's negative. Now, doubting something is like, as though you turn off the motors, you put on the brakes, you're idling, you don't know what direction to go. You haven't decided yet. So you cannot step on the gas and move because you haven't decided yet. You're in doubt. And in doubt means just spinning your wheels, doing nothing. Now you better get started, and then if you went the wrong way, you know how to correct it. But then you have to get started. Now don't have a doubt. Take for granted and go. If it didn't happen the way you expected, then change your way around and correct it. But if you don't get started, you will never make changes and corrections. Just do nothing. Okay? So doubt is very negative.
Okay, so we're talking about self-confidence. If someone doesn't, they think they can't do something, would you label that as a belief system, or?
Well, they have doubt in themselves, in the abilities, their faculties. That's a doubt again.
So it's more doubts, what
They,
you're
they,
talking.
they put the brakes on, they're not moving anywhere. But they don't know what direction to go, or when to go. Doubt. So that is limiting, of course it's limiting.
Okay. With your corporation, would you explain briefly where you've come and why you think your company is expanding and getting so large now as far as reaching out to people? I know you said referrals. What do you see that Silva's fulfilling as a need for our planet, for our country?
Well, Alicia, if you get to, let's say, deep thinking, we say the real, truthful, you know what the real reality and truthful truth is, really, everybody's looking for it.
Yeah.
It's nothing more but that you can use to solve problems with.
And that's what this is.
So if you solve a problem, that's the truth, that's reality. If you think you've got the truth and reality, but when applied, you not solve a problem, you don't have the real truth. You don't have reality. Okay? You start with this. So we get started in saying, we did not choose to come to this planet. We were sent. So whoever sent us can sure do it. Because we don't remember having been asked, do you want to go to planet Earth or don't you? All of a sudden we find ourselves here, and we're over here. So whoever sent me can sure do it without my permission. And we call that an all-powerful intelligence, high intelligence, God, our creator, whatever name you want to give it. Could be an entity, could be a whole series of entities, a hierarchy of intelligence is reign over the whole universe. Whoever they are, I mean, here I am, and I must have been sent for something. I surely now believe that we were not sent on a vacation. We were sent to do work day and night, and we appear to be moving in the wrong direction. When we pay more money, millions of dollars to entertainers to help us lose our time, more so than scientists who try to solve problems, something is very much wrong here. We pay millions to entertainers and only thousands to scientists. Not fair. An entertainer comes, we make a big fuss about it. Oh, a festive day. When a scientist comes, like who discovered the polio vaccine or others, we don't even know when they come. It's unfair, completely unfair. We have a complete wrong sense of values, completely. We're moving in the wrong direction. 90% of people are causing more problems than what the 10% can correct, and we're going into the negative. So we need to train more people to use their brain the way we're supposed to. Both brain hemispheres, not only one, to become geniuses, to be able to get ourselves out of the mess we got ourselves into right now.
Where do you think we'll be when we get to the point that 90% are doing what you're saying, instead of the reverse? The 10% are the ones practicing, accomplishing, and the 90% are still just functioning through the left and destroying.
This will be heaven. We should convert a grain of sand into a paradise. It would really be paradise then. Everybody helping everybody. You see, real human beings. A human being is not one who looks like one, Alicia. He's one who acts like one. So to qualify as a human being, you must take part in humanitarian acts. That's the only way. Now, animals take care of themselves and their immediate family, but animals do not take care of other animals of the same species. We should, because we are humans, not animals. We should take care of ourselves, our immediate family, and others like us, not as a human being. We're not doing this. We seem to be distrustful of everybody. We seem to be only defensive when everybody approaches you, as of what they're going to get out of me. I mean, how are they going to hurt me? Instead of, they're going to help me. We should help each other. Someone said, love one another, which is the greatest lesson ever mentioned to be practiced. Love one another. If you love each other, you will never hurt each other. So once you're connected to the right brain hemisphere, Alicia, you think before you act. If what I'm going to do, I wouldn't like it done unto me, I would not do it to anybody. If I would like it have it done unto me, I would do it to others also. Not unless. You can never be wrong like this. And now if you do, after you have felt that you should not do it, and do it, even though you know it's wrong, then this is the worst stressor that hurts your immune system the most. Before you're going to be eliminated from this planet on your own, because of your own doings.
So more guilt, is that what you're saying?
Guilt complex is what it is. It's stressor number one. The strongest of all that hurts your immune system the most.
And yet, once we link with that right hemisphere, we'll tune into that intuitive spiritual part of us that will help guide us and direct us, just listening to that.
By you staying there, you're strengthening your immune system. You're normalizing everything that's abnormal within your body. It becomes normal again. Anything that's abnormal, this energy has a tendency to normalize the abnormal, not to get it from the normal to the abnormal, from the abnormal to the normal. It doesn't know anything else to do, but maintain everything normally, functioning normally.
How do you think this would affect if, let's say, an average business person, executive, went through the program? Let's say they'd had migraines, sleep problems, had ulcers, and they were afraid of losing their job because they weren't performing as well as they used to. How do you think, like the stress management, learning how to think from the alpha level, tune into the right hemisphere, how would that make a difference in that person's life?
Well, to begin with, Alicia, the person would not function normally, not because of the headache, because of the drugs his person is taking. The person will be half drugged by to noontime if they didn't sleep right last night. And insomnia, for instance, I mean, it's not the insomnia in this case, it's the drugs they take to control the insomnia. And the many side effects that it has. That executive is half drugged by 12 o'clock during the day. What kind of decisions will he be able to make when they're on the drugs because they didn't sleep right last night, or because they have a terrible headache, a migraine headache. I mean, this will be eliminated completely. They will don't have to take, they should not have to take drugs to eliminate either the insomnia problem or headache problem, because there's techniques in the use of the mind, mental gymnastics, that they can use exercise to eliminate it in seconds. So this is a healthier executive. Mind's always sharp to make decisions the way they should. They will have no side effects. They eventually would get into their heart or to other circulatory problems and so on. Because all drugs have side effects. There's not a single medicine that has no side effects.
You think this is what creates a lot of burnout?
Well, that's it right there, of course. Not only this, why do they go before their time? Because too much stress, and they don't know how to neutralize the stress. If they only went to what we call their level for 5, 10, 15 minutes once a day, they will get rid of all the stress and start over again. It doesn't pile up, They have to finally blow up. There's no blowing up because you neutralize the stress as it builds up. You dissipate it to not allow it to build up on you or within you.
How would you, let's say someone that's watching, how would you tell them if they're an executive, they're in a position, they know they're under a lot of stress, and you tell them about the program and they say, I don't have the time to take it, what would you say to them?
I say, you better have the time, or you won't have to have time to go to hospital or be buried. Simple as that. Make the time. I mean, if you don't, you're going to have to make time to be buried, like it or not, or have to be dragged to the hospital, picked up from the street if you pass out, I mean, to make real time, you can prevent this. Prevent it from happening.
What do you think it's going to take to get the 90% through this program?
More people to come to the program, and the word of mouth, that these people tell their friends, tell others. That's about the only way it's going to happen, because people don't believe that this is as valuable as it is. To give you an idea, Alicia, we guarantee, Alicia, to medical doctors, that's what I want to say, may sound way out, because it is way out, and only doctors who are taking our training know that I'm telling the truth right now, or they will say I'm a liar. And you reckon why we have grown, and we've trained thousands of doctors now in 17 nations, more than 10 million people are practicing our techniques. So I'm not a liar then. I've proven that this is true. We guarantee any doctor, medical doctor, to be able to diagnose their patients at a distance without seeing them or talking to them, and be correct in their diagnosis, or we money after they get through with our treatment. How's that? We haven't got one single medical doctor ask for some money for his money back. Now you doctors are out there, know that I'm telling the truth.
So you fully guarantee it?
That's right.
If they go through
Can you imagine if mine is capable of doing this, Alicia? I mean, mine can detect problems mentally without being told, and you figure out how to solve them before they blow up and get worse. And this is what's happening to salespeople. This is why they can sell more, because they know what the customer needs. And they have to say the right words at the right time in relation, because they sense what the customer needs, and they're supplying a service to correct those needs, supply those needs. That's why. They're in rapport at this dimension.
So it's a win-win situation.
But how can you lose?
Yeah, because the person that's buying is
To
satisfied.
begin with, Alicia, what do you think? Why do you think we're so successful as we have been? Now in 17 nations teaching this course. And you're starting to need a little over radar, little Tex-Mex, little guy like me who's nobody, who has never been to school to begin with. I just happen to be one of the 10%ers. By nature, I was connected to every hemisphere. No wonder all these beautiful things have happened. So now we want everybody to be the same way as I have been, to be connected and to do the right thing.
And you've researched it, though, to understand how you functioned, instead of the way some of the others did, they've just done it.
That's right. Well, the thing was, it was just a lucky coincidence. And coincidence is a nice term that we respect very much, Alicia. Because for us, coincidence is not to say or explain the meaning that everybody takes it for. We say coincidence is a spontaneous event with beneficial end results. Because a spontaneous event with detrimental end results is an accident. So our discovery is not a product of a series of accidents, it's a product of a series of coincidences. You cannot live one more single day without suffering that this training can help you